A cross-country trip begins in New York and quickly ends in a Pennsylvania ditch. This is a story about a young woman's journey over the nation's highway system. It's one about speed, railroads, and a peculiar tramp who just wants a ride. This was an episode written by Rod Serling and directed by Alvin Gazner. As always, the alternative theories mentioned within may cause anxiety, rage, and disbelief, but that's why you're here, I hope. Kindly consider leaving a like, share, or subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Now, buckle yourself in, adjust your mirrors, and try not to run over the hitchhiker. Her name is Nan Adams. She's a young, career-minded woman making her way from New York to California, and she has a lead foot. Somewhere off of Highway 11 in Pennsylvania, Nan skids her car into the shoulder. A kind mechanic rescues her from a flat tire. The man is amazed in Nan's luck, being unscratched, but her reckless driving is going to cost her $40. Meanwhile, always lurking in the background is a strange, needy-looking man who needs a ride and a shower. Nan ignores him as most people do. However, no matter how fast west she drives, the old tramp is there wanting a ride from her. Visits to diners across railroad tracks cannot escape the man who wants a ride. Nan tries the lonesome side roads and ends up out of gas in the middle of New Mexico. However, her gas station isn't open 24/7. Nan pleads with the proprietor to unlock the pumps. Seeing the poor woman begging for help, he still says no. If the world wasn't cruel enough, having a psychopath lurking in the shadows, in the dead of night comes a sailor in a sailor's uniform who pops up and surprises her. We will only know him as the Sailor, making his way back to base in San Diego on foot. However, Nan makes a deal. She'll drive him to San Diego if he gives her military protection, but first, she needs fuel. A man in uniform gets further with the gas can than a pretty woman in trouble, it seems, and Nan is able to continue her vacation. But the hitchhiker is waiting for her down the road and still expects to be picked up. A quick jerk of the wheel could end all her troubles. It only takes good timing and a little luck, but Nan misses. Or perhaps the vaporous spirit was never there. Anyhow, the sailor is spooked and wants out. He'll walk the rest of the way, thank you very much. Desperate for company, Nan offers a trade if the sailor sticks with her. A date. But even a Navy man long between ports of calls isn't interested. Fatigued and distraught, Nan needs to hear a friendly voice. She pulls over to a phone booth in the middle of nowhere, which was common at the time. Nan calls her mother's home, but an unfamiliar voice answers, telling her that Nan's mother is in the hospital because of a nervous breakdown. Nan asks what happened, and she gets her answer. Nan is told by the stranger that the daughter, Nan, was killed in a car accident 6 days earlier in Pennsylvania from a blown tire. Nan feels numb inside, like a cold shell free of fear and a future. She climbs into her car behind her steering wheel, and waiting for her in the back seat is the stranger asking one more time, with a bit more confidence, for his ride. Nan Adams will resume her road trip, but the destination is the Twilight Zone. The Hitchhiker is a ghost story. Nan was the ghost, and so was her car. So Nan made appearances across the country with many witnesses for 6 days. Would she become an urban legend? Or perhaps no one will notice nor care? The better question, was the mechanic blinded by a supernatural veil? How was he unable to see the truth? Nan's dead body and the mangled car. What will be going through his head when he learns the young woman, who he took $40 from, was really left for dead off of Highway 11? These are examples of the unanswered questions in an episode that was all about the punchline. However, there is a theory that could explain Nan's casual journey across the country as the undead. Nan was in an alternative timeline, a parallel universe. Some say there is one parallel universe for every decision not made, or for every outcome not experienced. This is one where Nan survived, and so carefully hinted by the mechanic.
Blowout, skid marks, shoulders like pudding, and going 65 miles an hour. Lady, you're on the side of the angels.
For 6 days, she continued her life without the memories nor scars of the other timeline, where she did suffer. Even Nan admits the world she's driving through is a little off, a little wrong. The hitchhiker merely is a visual cue to something she already feels. However, Nan's trip to a parallel dimension was a mistake. A personification of death actively tries to steer Nan back into the correct timeline. Acceptance can only come after denial, anger, and bargaining. This supports another theory, convenient as it is, that Nan was speaking into the original universe by phone. It also resolves a production anomaly where Nan and the person she's talking to seem sort of out of sync. This is because the two parts of dialogue were recorded at different times and places, and it's likely one didn't know the exact dialogue delivered by the other at the time of filming. I've always found odd that Mrs. Whitney is talking about Nan in third person after Nan introduced herself. Perhaps this awkward exchange works in the episode's favor, as we don't know who Mrs. Whitney thought called her at that moment. Maybe in her timeline, it's someone else, and Nan has eavesdropped, sort of tapped the phone line. When Nan accepts her fate, the mysterious stranger no longer asks for a ride. He's already in the car. The only thing keeping him from his ride wasn't a closed door, but a closed mind. Now for some alternative theories. What are the odds that a sailor returning from leave, on foot, runs into a young lady who looks like a movie star in the middle of the night? It's so fantastic, even the sailor second guesses himself. Let me explain. The sailor is dead. This is something a wandering spirit would do. A ghost. No, he doesn't see a vision of death. Or does he? Nan may be the sailor's personification of death, just as the hitchhiker was to Nan. We have to remind ourselves that the sailor is also a hitchhiker needing to rideshare, but unlike Nan, he hasn't yet experienced the many stages of grief, and I want to bet his feet or shoes have something to do with the end-of-life experiences, because the episode makes a big deal of him taking his shoes off and grabbing them before he ditches Nan alone to the wolves. If you read The Twilight Zone Companion by Mark Zickery, you'll learn The Hitchhiker was based on a radio play in the 1940s, where Orson Welles played Ronald Adams. The role of Adams in The Twilight Zone went to Inger Stevens, in no doubt an attempt to make the character more vulnerable and more sympathetic. My opinions about The Hitchhiker are mixed. It is a good episode that has been described as Hitchcockian. It is also a very simple episode about a road trip. In many ways, it's a reimagining of One for the Angels, complete with a character trying to elude death. What is it about 1960s television and its depiction of the Grim Reaper where they must break the fourth wall? Must be a generational thing. While I do think this episode is better than One for the Angels, it's not more entertaining than Perchance to Dream. But it is better directed. We feel Nan's vulnerability as well as relate to a vacation turned bad, as she is unable to enjoy a mile or meal on her trip. She's constantly reminded she has other places to be. I give The Hitchhiker 3 dimensions out of 5. It does have a couple tropes. Tag them doomed from the start, and a supernatural character. This is Mr. G of Synergy leaving you with these final words. If you're taking a long drive across the country, look out for the roadkill, especially in the Twilight Zone. Check out other videos on the channel. Thanks for watching.